Okay, we're going to get started, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and a very special thank you to Superintendent Dr. Frank Ranelli for participating in our first roundtable of the school year. As we have transitioned into this program, it is a more collaborative and interactive format. We kindly ask everyone present, both in the room and those joining us in Zoom, to extend the utmost respect and appreciation to Dr. Ranelli, as well as to all of our future guests. Our meeting will embody the principles of cooperation, open communication, and mutual respect, just like all of our roundtable discussions. A note for today, we do recognize that many are following the upcoming school board election. Many may have seen the CSE candidate forum last night. While neither Dr. Ranelli nor the ISC can comment on any candidate, we do invite you to attend our bipartisan student-led candidate forum on Thursday, October 9th at 7:30. And that's going to be held at the Harriton High School auditorium, and will also be streamed online and recorded for future viewing. Additionally, we encourage you to join our first parent education program of the year, which will be focused on teen gambling and gaming. Presenter Mark Trainer, who's a licensed counselor with extensive experience in treating compulsive behaviors and trauma, will cover essential tips, including how to talk to teens about gambling, trends, risks, and warning signs, and also prevention strategies and resources. This discussion will take place at 7 p.m. on Zoom exclusively, and that is on October 8th. Please note that today's meeting will be recorded and is also being transcribed in closed caption and will be posted to the ISC YouTube channel. Now, let's extend a warm welcome to Dr. Ranelli.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't need any of that. I appreciate it. It's never about that, but I'm happy to be here.
Great, thank you.
Okay, looking back over the first 5 months, how would you characterize your overall experience at LMSD?
First of all, it's been wonderful. I work with wonderful people and good partners that are around me all times. A lot of learning about the goals and priorities and what's important to the people here. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about the future planning and things like that. But I would categorize, when I speak to people outside of here, this is the perfect place for me to be. Again, the people I work with are incredible, and the kids are great. I enjoy getting around to the schools and working with everybody. And so, yeah, it's been wonderful.
Great. We recognize that you are still relatively new in your role, although it may have feel longer than it is. What challenges have you encountered since taking on the position, and how are you addressing them?
Yeah, so I think one of the, sit up straight here. So I think one of the most important things that I've learned here, and I knew what I was coming into, right? The sixth superintendent in 5 years, right? Including the interns and the challenges that faces there. And you look at any large corporation, right? An organization with this amount with this budget, with this amount of students and families that we support, with the change in leadership. Everybody was well intended in their leadership, but anytime there's a change in all of your minds as well, right? So that's a big challenge for me. One of the things that was a challenge for me also is the processes that are not that they're not in place, but they need to be addressed, right? Almost every part of the organization has a process that needs to be kind of put back in a box because of the change in leadership, right? And because of some of the flux that happened over the past 5 years. You come right out of COVID, and then you through no fault of your own, right? You go through all this change that kind of depletes the processes that are in place. So for me, one of the challenges is to try to make sure, one school's doing what the other school's doing. The curriculum is being, delivered in one way and another. And, so across the district, the processes are the same. Another challenge that I have is the lack of trust here in Lower Merion. And I think I'm being very honest. You want honesty from me, you're going to get it. It's astounding to me. There's lack of trust in every area. And that's a challenge for me to be able to build that. And I think one of the things that is the only thing that's really going to help that is me being here a good amount of time. right? To where you all can see, the parents could see, the staff could see, the principals could see, the administrators could see that we're gonna be consistent, we're gonna treat people well, we're gonna put things in place that help kids. And we're gonna address things that happen the correct way, right? According to the processes that are in place in a consistent way. So challenges, yes, but not, and nothing we can't overcome. And, again, it's been really, really great to work with the administration and the staff to try to do those things in a short period of time. I tell a lot of people that the things we do now are not going to be seen for 3 or 4 years, unfortunately. And what you're seeing, the result now was the result of what happened the last 5 years, right? Of all the, again, processes, lack of trust, things like that.
Is there anything that you found to be successful in your last district that you would like to implement here at this district?
So, I'm gonna, in an effort not to repeat myself through a lot of these questions, because she did give them to me, so everybody knows.
As we do with all speakers.
Yeah. So, that would be unfair. I've always led and in my career by saying you can't take a program from one district, plop it in another district and expect it to be successful. You have your own needs, your own values. I mean, the Lower Merion School District. So without and it'll be another answer for another one about initiatives, right? Without me fully understanding the goals and values of the community, it would be really irresponsible of me to say, yeah, I'm looking at this initiative and want to bring it here because it was successful somewhere else. Yeah.
You read.
Oh, and can I,
Go ahead.
no, okay, that's fine. That's a good one. That's a
Coming
good one.
later.
No, it's coming later, because I do have a point to make, but that's coming another question. I thought it might have been that one.
I just love them. They keep getting in and out. I've been trying.
Okay. You recently sent out an email to our community with information about the 2026 to 2031 district strategic plan process. And in that had announced a series of upcoming community meetings and a survey to help create the strategic priorities for the next 5 years. Can you tell us more about the process?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things I want to stress is that the strategic plan here is 10 years old. And while it is a solid strategic plan, I don't think it encapsulates what is important to you, especially after the 10 years that just happened, right? Of everything that happened in the 10 years, right? With society, the government, the COVID, the leadership changes here. So I think it's really important that we take a look at the vision statement, the mission statement, the values that you all have, what this community wants. I ask this question a lot. I need to understand more what school districts mean to you. Like, what do you think a school district should mean to you and your family? Right? I'll say clearly that, in my opinion, a school district shouldn't be everything to everyone. We don't have that. We're not set up for that in public school, right? We're set up to educate and create opportunities for kids to be the best they can be and have the most opportunity they can for when they leave. So the strategic plan for me is really important to understand and to take those next steps in the district goals and school goals. They're all tied to one another in this big document. But the strategic goals are really overarching. And you talk about the process. Yeah, there'll be a survey coming out. We're finalizing that survey this week, and sometime next week, I believe, early next week. Yeah. You'll see a survey, which again, we're trying to figure out the questions, how many, so it's not overwhelming, to make sure that we get the most bang for our buck. And then we'll use that to drive our meetings that we have. And if you saw on the letter that we had, our first meeting is October 9th, 29th. The next one is November, one in January, and then in March. So we'll use those meetings to invite people in, staff, community members, students, administrators, board members, things like that. But they'll all be on an equal playing field, right? Nobody's going to come in and drive this process. One of the reasons we hired the CCIU to do this is so nobody could look at it and say, well, they're driving the process and pushing it one way. And we're not going to do that, right? When we come in, And when you all come in, you're gonna get a color or a number or whatever, and you're gonna sit at different tables and with different people and with different minds. And I think it's important that we kind of collaborate in that way rather than coming with people who you were friends with and talk about the same things all the time. And we'll be just other people at that table. Talking about the values, things, how they work, what we see as educators, or what the students see. I think that process is really good. The first meeting is going to talk about mission, vision, and values, right? And they're really going to be, the CCIU is really going to drive the overarching conversation to where we go from here sort of down to here only. Take that information, kind of combine it all, and then come back for a second meeting and do that. Right, so do it again, right? Here's what you said at the first meeting. Let's drill down even more. Here's what you said at the second meeting. Let's drill down even more. So that's part of the process. And we're looking forward to, making sure we hear everybody's voice, everybody who can make it. If you can't, the survey will be good data for us to have, and we'll include that data in the strategic plan.
I know you had also said it previously, it's advantageous for people to come to multiple.
Yeah,
If they're able.
if they can, right? But you don't have to. Like, if you can only show up to the third one, that's
Any
great.
of them.
Any of them is great. But if you can, that would be great. This way you could see the consistency that we're trying and the process as we're trying to lay it out. But if you could make one, if you can't make any because you work in the evenings and you could just fill the survey out, please take your time. And there's any questions there, please take your time and really kind of let us know how you feel and what's important to you as a family.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what educational trends or innovations are you most excited about, and how do you plan on implementing them within the district? Although I think that you've already answered that.
So, yeah, I think that's the one I wanted to make a point about, right? I don't think it would be responsible for me to say that or any of that without having the strategic goal in place, right? The strategic goal would be the overarching themes, and they would be around achievement, they would be around wellness, they would be around student engagement and, other things like that. And then every year after that, so they'll come to us. The process will be complete in April, May, June, right? Things like that. So right after that, we'll write the district goals, and they'll be for a year, and they'll be tied to what the strategic goals are. So there'll be 26, 27 LMSD district goals, right? And then the schools will write their goals from the district goals as well. So you'll see a big line all connected to one another, to where those things kind of match up. I'm not a big, what's the word you use here in this question? Trend or innovation person, right? I fully believe that a lot of educators, especially who sit in my seats, and again, I'm gonna be honest, I apologize for that. But look at the newest thing that comes out and says, we need that. Let's bring that there. Let's bring this there. Let's bring that there. Where we just spent a couple of years doing some good research on certain things, and we put this in place for teachers to do. And yet in a year, we're going to tell them, oh, we're bringing something new in, or we're adding something on top of that. I don't think that's fair to the teachers or the kids to be able to kind of bring in new things that are only going to last as far as a fad lasts or until the next thing comes in. So that was the point I wanted to make, and I referenced before. I'm not a big person to talk about initiatives or programs. I'd rather use foundational blocks that are going to be here long after I leave. Because if we just bring in programs or initiatives, they'll be gone before I leave, right? And the new thing will be there. I know a lot of educators, their knee-jerk reaction is, oh, this is great. This research is terrific. We are, I don't want to quote any numbers, but one of the top districts in the state. We're doing something right? You all send your kids to us ready to learn, and our teachers are great, and we're doing a really, really good job, I think, right? You all would have your opinions on that. But I think if we continue to support our staff, to have professional learning, to support our kids, to make sure they're engaged and their wellness is taken care of, I think those are the things we want to concentrate on rather than an innovative initiative that kind of usurps what the research and the things that we put in place a few years back. And then it results in the teacher saying, well, what do they want me to do? They want me to do this way or this way? We learned both in the past couple of years. So we want to try to avoid that and really solidify the expert learning that we have. Make sense?
It does.
All right.
Outside of the strategic plans, going back to a little bit about where we were before. How do you plan to engage with parents outside of that? And the wider community to address their concerns and involve them in the district initiatives? And what strategies do you have in place to ensure transparency and open communication in the process?
Sure, this is one of them, right? I think it's important for me to engage in our partners in the community. I think another big part of communication and transparency would be our meetings, right? I think our committee meetings that we have, our board meetings that we have, committee meetings have run really well, right? A lot of good information that have come out of that. And you know, our board meetings impart more information, but really it's the committee meetings that get the crux of where we could communicate and answer questions and things like that. You know, I think that's a big part of understanding the operations of a school district. I think people here want to meet with me. I mean, I've had literally over 300 requests to say, can I meet with you? You have to do this. You have to do it this way. I demand this. I want this, you know, and I really don't know that that's the right operational structure of a district, right? If you have concerns, there's a process, right? We have our teachers in place, our counselors in place, our principals in place, you know, things like that. So I go back to the processes, right? To where we put them in place and are consistent in their delivery. So you all feel supported in everything that you need. But as far as me communicating with this, I think partnerships like this, other groups like CARE, CSE, I think they're really important for me to be there when I can be there. And just being at events. And we'll talk a little bit more about the staff and a couple of questions, but yeah, a few more questions, but just me being at schools, I think is way more important than being in this building.
How do you plan to address diverse needs of students, including those who require additional supports?
So I'll combine the question that you missed before, right? That's okay. The initiative is about supporting mental health and things like that. So we here, and again, I'm here almost 6 months, so I'm still learning all the things that we do. That you could say, well, what's going on in Harrington? I don't know. I got to find out, right? We do a lot of the PBSIS. We do a lot of information when it comes to supporting kids. The counseling staff is great. Our student support services department is fantastic. And I think it's going to come down to equipping the teachers and staff even more with tools that can identify students in need. I think that's really where the groundwork is. And we're working on that with professional development. I think it's important for us to be able to put things in place in the foundation of our schools. And again, not a program in place to help kids, right? In the foundation of our schools to say, if this kid's in need, we're going to make sure we have this, right? And what is in place for one student doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be in place for others. And I say that because, again, we're an institution that wants to make sure kids have what they need and not things that are sort of equal for everybody. The equal versus equality kind of conversation is a big deal to me. Right? Certain kids need more things based on their need. And we'll make sure that they have that. So, you know, working with the counselors, working with the teachers, you know, one student at a time is what we kind of always talk about. Yeah.
Sorry. I have do not disturb, but it broke through on one of my favorites.
Yeah, my kids can get through too.
I'm like, I don't know how to.
You know, you get to figure it out.
Stop calling me. Okay. How do you build collaborative relationships with teachers, staff, administration to foster a positive school culture?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've done as a school leader is make sure that I've had these small meetings where we have like 10 or 12 people, and I ask 3 questions, right? I ask, you know, what are you proud of? What do we do really, really well? What is a roadblock in education? And I don't need a complaint. I don't need, well, there's not enough microwaves in the faculty room, right? What's a real roadblock to you educating kids? And then the third question sort of backs up to that, and how can we help, right? Remove that roadblock. So far, I've had 10 of those meetings, right? And I'll continue to do that to make sure that everybody feels supported and kind of, I understand from them rather than through principals. Not that they're not honest or not they, but you're gonna leave here with 20 different interpretations on what happened here. Right? So I want to be able to hear directly from them so I don't have to interpret what a principal has to say. Right? And so I think that's really important. Showing up in their classrooms, showing up when I'm invited to things. Like those things, them just seeing me as an educator that works for them. I've always looked at this job as the board and the superintendent, forget about if it's me or not, right? Or at this bottom of this sort of upside down triangle, pushing up, right? And we're giving the administrators all the tools they need. We work for them, giving them all the tools they need to be successful. Administrators giving the teachers all the tools they need to be successful, and everybody kind of works up to the students being at the top, receiving all of that work being pushed up, right? I'm never a top-down person. None of this is ever about me, which will be one of my comments later as well. But I think that's a really important thing, is that the teachers and the staff and the administrators look to me as accessible, around, and someone who just is a more logical thinker to fix problems rather than impart these big ideas that, oh my God, we're going to do this and this is going to be great. And we do a lot of things really, really well. They just need the support to continue to do that.
And you kind of touched on this, but in what ways are you able to hear many different voices in school and the community?
Yeah, I think the same things that I talked about, right? Being here at these meetings, making sure that we have contact with parents, being at social events, being at schools, I think that's really important. So many of the things that I said. Yeah.
Okay. Fast forward 20 or more years. And what do you hope to be, what do you hope to be remembered for at the end of your tenure as superintendent in this district?
Yeah, so that's why I said a couple of seconds ago, it's never about me. Like I don't know that I want to be remembered for anything, right? Except maybe someone who came at a time where you all needed the support to be able to get some really good things back on track when it comes to processes. Again, I'll repeat myself, processes, the trust, all of the things that, a district as wonderful as ours should have, right? So I think that's a part of that. I think maybe what I'd want to be remembered for is the person that was able to come and be here for a good long time and make sure that you all had everything you need. So the kids felt like they were supported. Whether or not the students know who I am, they'll know if I leave. And they'll feel it somehow that there'll be a change. Right? So whether the teacher acts a little bit differently or the building acts a little bit differently because a new superintendent comes, like I said, whether or not that happens, the students will feel it somehow when superintendents change. So I want to make sure that maybe I'm remembered for that, right? That I was someone who was committed here and wants to be here for to put everything back, sort of to build those blocks again. So yeah, I don't want to be remembered for any big change that we made or anything like that. I just think it's important that what I'm remembered for is that people look at me as someone who worked for them, whether it be staff, kids, you all.
And is there anything else you wish to share with us that you wish that we had asked you?
I'm sure you all will. So no, I looked at that question and I'm like, I don't know, right? I think I'm pretty and you please tell me if you think I'm not, and I'm okay with that. I'm pretty forthcoming with who I am, right? And kind of you get what you get with me, right? I have a lot of experience. I think this is a good place for me. It's a good match for you with what you need now. But I don't know that there's anything that I would say, well, I wish they would ask me this. And I have 3 kids. I still live in New Jersey, looking to make the move to Pennsylvania, but not yet. Yeah, family's everything to me, and I know it is for you as well. I know how important this position is to the community.
Yeah, thank you. We are going to open it up to questions.
My bodyguard's right here. I'm all set.
And so we'll start off with everyone in the room. The way we run the roundtable format is that we give priority to the people in the room for questions. And then if we have time, we incorporate the questions online. So are there any questions in the room? Okay, go right ahead.
I
Hi.
Sarah Sullivan,
Hi,
I'm
Sarah.
a kindergartner at Penn Valley, so I'm new to the district. I appreciate your comments about wanting to make sure anything that we implement is kind of evidence-based, so we're not going off of just what the new trends are. How do you balance that with making sure we're not staying old and
Stagnant.
antiquated and adjusting to the growing needs of the world that are changing
Sure.
rapidly?
Yeah, so there are ways that we incorporated in my past life, right? In my past leadership roles, we've incorporated, I'm not gonna say trends, I don't like, but you know what I mean, but new things that are important to the world, right? I'll give you an example. I really don't like talking about Piscataway a lot, where I came from, because I'm not there anymore, but we saw a big trend with our kids, not not big, but there was a faction of our kids not going to college. Okay, so you say, how did we deal with that, right? We didn't put a new initiative in, right? We built a foundational, like, I don't want to use the word program, right? We built in the foundation, opportunities for more career and technical education things, right? And they're going to be there long after I've left, right? To where kids had that opportunity to do that. So that's an example of, look, we understand we don't want to change certain things, but we see a trend for our kids that we need to help. So we want to make sure that we incorporate that into what we do, right? So, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like to change curriculum, but sometimes it needs to happen, right? We brought in Steels this year for science. I mean, things like, those things need to happen so we don't stay stagnant. We stay current with the the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I was just at a superintendent's meeting for 2 days. Things like that are really important to us that we do. We bring back all that information and we talk about it in this room with academic council. And if there is a change that needs to be made, and again, I'm here 6 months, I'm not going to say there is, we make sure we incorporate it, right? We want to make sure that your kindergarten has what they need in 6th grade, and then ultimately what they need when they graduate, right? So I think it's important that we continue to infuse things without overhaul changing everything because, Frank thinks it's good because I used it in Piscataway. I don't think that's fair to you all, but I do think that question is valid, right? How do you stay current without kind of the upheaval of change? But it's something we look at all the time.
Anyone else?
Becca.
Oh, okay. So,
In keeping with that, so I appreciate what you're saying with the strategic plan and the purpose of all the community involvement to help set and normal things as a community. Is that the only way at this point, like in this year, that you would be looking for data and information about where to put priorities, or is there already data that you have been looking at that says to you, and one of the things that will be important for us to reflect on the strategic plan, like the example you just gave from your previous school district, there's a group that's not going to college, we need to make sure they are set up the right way for a non-college after school path, right? Is there any data that you have been looking at since you've been here for half a year that you're like, I don't know what it will be, but this is one of the things that I think we will need to look to address in the.
Yeah, sure. You say data to the point of, I looked at the example I gave from my previous job was about numbers, right? So far, no, right? I haven't, because really you look at our successes and it's really great, right? There are things that for me are important that have come to the table for us, right? The achievement gap is one of them. I want to make sure that we really understand why that's happening. I look back in my files in my office, and there are the same papers from 25 years ago that there are today. So no change has been made. I find that interesting, right? So that data, right? The data for special education, the data for the SEL, students that need. So those are really important to me as a person to make sure kids are taken care of. And I've looked at the academics to where the point is, okay, we're really doing really well there. I want to make sure kids feel like they feel valued in class. When they're sitting there, no matter what their grade, no matter what their age, kids should be able to answer the same questions. People like me because, right? I can make my environment better because I'm valued here because, and maybe a first grader can't put those into words, but if you ask a first grader, why do people like me? They should be able to say, right? So that's the kind of environment that we're trying to make sure that we have. So it's more anecdotal than numbers, but the things that have come to my attention that have been here and pervasive things that just can't get better, that's interesting to me. You're welcome.
Someone's, yeah, I was like, someone's down there. Go
Yeah.
on. Hi, Val.
My name's Randy.
Hi, Randy.
I have a son who's a senior at Lower Merion High School and one who graduated with your skills. So two things that are like on the more specific side. One is, I just want to say, not sure why it took so long, but I'm so happy the phones are away. So whoever did that program.
Oh, you mean the policy?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with that.
Sometimes when it comes
Takes
to-
I'm not, yeah, so.
Sometimes when I would go to curriculum meetings, I would hear things that are going on and then I'd ask my kids and they'd say, it's not being done.
Mhm.
So it was so nice to hear about it and then to see it being implemented.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank
So
you.
That's
Appreciate that.
wonderful.
And just to make a comment on that first thing, we do continue to talk about that, right? And it's a conversation with our principals is what does it look like? How are we implementing it? Is it consistent? So we it's not just something where it's a piece of paper, it's done, and we expect it to be done. We do continue to talk about
Thank you. And then the other thing is, I feel like I'm just gonna go in for it,
Yeah.
so, sorry.
it. That's good.
But you brought up, the lack of trust. And I do think it's a major problem.
It's
You know,
astounding.
I've been here for a very long time. And I just want to point out that I know it stems from a lot of different areas. But one area that I specifically see it stemming from is the way that the school board meetings are run. Because people are allowed to come and share their feelings, but the school board members, then because the rules don't say anything back and they don't acknowledge, except sometimes they make exceptions. And so it's as if the child is looking to their parent and saying, I want to tell you something, I'm uncomfortable, and the parent just says,
Mhm.
or if child goes to the teacher and says, this is what I need, this is what I'm concerned about, and the teacher just looks and says, no response. And so you can't build trust without responses.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, I'm not saying I know the answer to how to solve that. I'm just pointing out that I think that sparks mistrust.
Sure.
Or that people don't think you're hearing me if you're not responding. So how can we fix that?
Yeah, sure. That's an interesting question, right? And I say interesting because we talk about it all the time as well, right? Imagine us answering some questions and not others, right? Imagine us talking to some people and taking that and not responding to others, right? Imagine us responding to one thing and then a person comes back and says another thing and we can't respond to that or we don't respond to that.
Yeah.
It's a no, that's a no-win situation. And I know this is being recorded. I'm not gonna shy away from this, right? With the way people talk to each other these days and come to a meeting and talk, and I don't think there's any good that could come out of going into a back and forth with somebody at a board meeting, right? So we are looking at how do we fix this, right? How do we make sure that the people who have valid things that aren't just repeat things over and over again are heard and responded to, right? There's a lot of that's on me, right? That we're trying to figure out. I've had 5 board meetings, right? And have to come to a point where we are able to say things, but I don't know how that is.
Right. and
I'll be
I
honest with you.
know
I really
that,
don't.
but
Because if we go back and forth with someone, it's just a no-win situation for anybody.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I think I agree with you, I think that's a no-win situation, I think not responding is a no-win situation. So what
Yeah.
you do, but I think some of the.
I'm working
people
on it.
That come back and
Mhm.
scream
Yep.
and say the same thing over and over again, are doing it as if like a child is like, Mom, Dad, you're not hearing me.
I'll push
So-
back a little bit, Randy, and I apologize, but again, you're gonna get it from me. I don't, whatever you like,
That's
you
okay.
like it or not. People have come when they've gotten answers already. They haven't gotten the answer they liked.
Okay.
You know, so it's just that over and over again, the same, not everybody, right? But some people have just done that and they just don't get the answer they like, so they come and they say it at a board meeting, and I think you all would rather me in schools than answering everybody's thing that I just don't have time for. And it really takes away from me being the educator that I should be, rather than dealing with adult problems, you know, so I kind of push back a little bit on that, but I hear you and I am working on it. I promise you that it's a discussion that is not lost on me, and you'll see some kind of change soon. I don't know when, but I need to make sure that if, once we do it, we can do it consistently and we do it well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kara?
Thank you. I have two questions, but I wanted to thank you for your comment about that. And I spoke about that at a board meeting recently. And just to piggyback.
Did my
on-
answer make sense, Kara, to you?
It did.
Good.
I think a part that's not being discussed here is that I think the community doesn't understand what the rules are for those board meetings, and that community comments are intended to be that, comments, and they're not intended to be a question and answer session. So wondering if, in lieu of not having a decision made yet to answer your question, which was about, you know, how do you foster better communication and have a back and forth, to explain why there's no back and forth right now, this very moment, so that when people are watching people not get answered at that podium, they understand, oh, well, there's Robert's rules, or like what you said about favoritism and answering some questions or not others. Kind of like,
Yeah.
if there's just a way to explain that out as part of.
It's a
opening up
possibility. I
board
could talk
meeting.
to the board leadership about that. I do think in some cases it'll fall on deaf ears, but I hear you.
Well, I'm really concerned about it because students are watching and students don't
Yes.
understand the rules.
Yep.
And our high school students, you know, are trying to educate themselves about
I hear you.
civil engagement, and there's kind of a disconnect there for them.
Thank you.
Okay, but anyway, my other question was about, you know, we talked about taking some time to evaluate, collect data, and just for you to get to know the community and everything. And that, I think you said things that we do now will not be seen for maybe 3 or 4 years, unfortunately. So what do you say to parents? And of course, oh, I should mention I'm Kara Herman. I have 2 kids in the district. One actually graduated, one's at Lemon High School, and I'm president of the Committee for Special Education. So representing that group, the CSE, this whole feeling of 3 to 4 years, like people, it twists people into a pretzel when they have, when they're thinking about your answer like that in context of special education services and related supports. So I'm just wondering what you can say to that community in
Yeah.
terms of the timeline.
Yeah, don't misunderstand
Please.
the 3 to 4 years or 2 to 3 years of seeing some systemic change, right? I do think there are changes that we have made in the past 5 months, right? To where it's a need we see, we put our heads together, we partner with people we need to partner with, and we get the change done, right? My comment about 2 to 3 years or whatever it may be, or like you're seeing results now from things that happened 5 years ago,
Mhm.
right? So the unrest, if I could use that word, right? In some areas, it just, you know, will not be sort of at rest until people really understand that there's gonna be consistent people here, there's gonna be consistent rules, there's gonna be consistent processes. If we need to make changes for a specific need, we could do those a lot quicker than 2 or 3 years.
Okay. And my last question is just a housekeeping question, which is people in the community are asking about the strategic plan and why CCIU is the chosen.
Well, I mentioned that before.
Why is it them and not MCIU or another?
Yeah,
organization?
MCIU didn't have a program like that. Yeah, MCIU did not.
I know the answer, but I
We
don't
asked them
think
and they said, well, we could put something together, and no disrespect, they're fantastic. Regina Speaker is great. I love working with the MCIU, but we reached out to them first. And, you know, it was more of a sort of ambiguous, well, we could probably put something together where the CCIU had we've done this before, we know what we're doing, here's the playbook, and we're all good with that. Yep.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Fine.
Well,
Hi.
Very patient.
I'm Vicky Dr.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi, I have a current sophomore, I also have 2 alum,
Oh,
Class of
LM
19.
Harrison.
LM, okay, sorry.
That's good.
Class of 19 and 2019 and 2022. I'm also an alum, which
That's
lot,
great.
lot longer
That's
ago,
great.
but around, still. So I have a 2-part related kind of concern / question, and I don't necessarily expect you to answer today, but I'm
Okay.
gonna flag it, and then I have a bigger question
Okay.
that I'd like to hear your thoughts on. So the 2-part related concern / question is, it used to be that both LM and Harriton every June shared, up until a couple years ago, with students their course schedule for the following year. Not like detail, not teachers, not sequence, so they didn't know who's with them. But so that if there were issues, they could iron it out in time. Some reason 2 years ago, LM just stopped and Harriton still goes. And I've raised this with Principal Johnson, and the answer he was honest. He said he doesn't know why. So, just want to flag that. And that's related to another concern, which is summer school health, kids taking that summer after summer after freshman year to free up electives. And then the way scheduling works for health and electives, they end up not being able, they end up in a lot of study halls. This happened to my daughter, and I know it's happened to numerous other students. So sort of like an odd situation with the way the lab floats and the amount of days you need for health, the amount of days you need for in the rotating schedule for the elective. So I'm just flagging that. I have emailed about it, but I wanted to make sure.
Can you
because
forward
I'm
that
not
email to
getting
me?
answers
Can
about
you forward that
Facebook.
email to me?
Yes, yes.
I appreciate it.
My
And are both
bigger
of those on there?
question-
Can you
what's
put
that?
both of those on there? Just
Yeah.
remind me.
My bigger question is, in today's political climate, where there's a lot of, it's just not as easy, I think, as it used to be to have open dialogue in classes for students to engage in certain activities that might be more politically affiliated, like the SAGE conference. There was some controversy here last spring, but I'm also even now, in recent, even more recent than last spring, concerned about the ability of our teachers to be able to speak freely in classes. And so I'd like to hear your thoughts on sort of how to preserve that for teachers and students. The ability to speak freely without, of course.
Sure. And if I were teaching a humanities course in the high school, I would think twice about it as well. But we want to make sure that we're supporting the teachers in what they do. We have engaged in the Dialogue Institute to come and help train us. And the Dialogue Institute works exactly how it sounds, right? To come in and really try to give teachers tools to be able to recognize a sensitive topic, right? Number one. And number two, have the tools in their bag to deal with it, right? So we trained our administrators over the summer. They're gonna turnkey all of the information. I think it's even the next in-service that we have to the teachers, right? That's one way we're trying to, okay, we understand that there's
What is it called?
the Dialogue Institute. Yeah, they're great, yeah. We've used them before here in the past as well, and I think once in the spring when I was here, when I just got here, so I didn't even know it was happening. But they were great. So I think giving them tools is one thing. Also, having the supervisors of the departments, right? The curriculum assistant to the superintendent, Dr. Scott Weinstein, Mr. Weinstein, really meet with those people and say, well, what are the things that you think you should have said or been able to say 5 years ago or 8 years ago? And what would be your hesitations now? Really trying to talk through that and to make sure that they feel supported. A lot of you all don't think that they should have that academic freedom, right?
Right.
So that's some of the problems that we, figure out. So if I bring something in my classroom and it's met with a lot of resistance from parents, why would I do that to myself? Right, but I hear your question on how would you preserve that academic freedom and that trust that we're going to be behind them. So I guess really the more talking we could do as administrators and teachers and departments, the better off we'll be in understanding where those lines are and what we want to make sure that the course really imparts the information it intended to do based on the curriculum. So it's really, you started off by saying a challenging topic and you're not wrong.
And I want to add one comment.
Yeah, sure.
Kara's point earlier about modeling for students and wanting to teach our students civil, engagement and how to talk. So as much as this all sounds good, but I also want to make sure like the students are aware, because it's a hard topic for them and they're entering,
That's a lot of,
might continue to be a difficult thing. So helping them learn how to navigate that too.
So, just like everybody in this room, we have different skills, right? We could do things, differently than other people, better, not as good, whatever it may be, right? I know my limits and things like that. I think it's important for us to be able to model for teachers to be able to model for kids. I think Dialogue Institute does a lot of that. It gives them phrases and words and things like that to really diffuse a situation, so there can be a discussion where people disagree and it remains civil. Yeah, so I hope so too. We're working on it, so it's not, we're working on it, yeah.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, Stephanie.
In a nutshell, Blackrock. And one quick thing that like sparked into my mind from hearing Randy and Kara's comments. my background is in public relations and communications, and I was thinking, gosh, you know, I understand the time constraints and the limitations of community comment in the board meeting, but could this be an opportunity to actually educate the community? Sort of what you're saying about that boilerplate up front, hey, community comments, we really only have time for this, but if you would like to engage in a dialogue around certain topics. And like, I remember there was a really cool flow chart that was put together that talked about like, if you had questions or issues, you start with this person, and you can go to an escalate.
It's still on,
Yeah,
it's still on.
Okay, great. That would be an amazing slide to have flash on the screen behind you. And you just upfront let people know, you know, at this time or whatever, we're unable to really dive into things. If you'd like to dive into your topic deeper, please see the flow chart for who to, and in some ways you're taking
Yep.
that situation or a challenging situation and you're using it to educate your audience on how to productively drive through their issues. So
I appreciate that.
just food for thought.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Michelle.
I just had a question about new hires. So you had said you're working with the Dialogue Institute. When we have new hires come in, and I can't remember if this was at another meeting we discussed, but is there a process for them for training, or do they sign off on the policies, or how do they know what is,
So
happening?
I'll say I don't know, and again, you're gonna get what you get with me, I'm honest, right? So, the process of signing off on policies, they sign an employee handbook that they've read them and they understand, and there's certain policies that they need to be trained on. I did too, right? When we all started, there's, I don't know, probably 12 hours of things I needed to put time into, whether they were online, reading, videos, whatever, before I was able to come on board. So those things are important, right? So that happens with all employees. And the process of reviewing professional development that already happened with staff members that come on board, it's a great question. So I'll make sure I go over with principals.
And then, my other part was, as far as the acting principal and acting
Yep.
curriculum, are those gonna switch?
I'm working
to- Okay. Right. I didn't know, is that an open position?
I'm working.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in the room have any questions? Or sure, Holly, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Holly. I have a child in middle school, 5th grade. Wow, overwhelmed because it's school for me and him, and then another one in elementary. And I appreciate your candor.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We don't all love
Not
the
everybody, yeah,
answers, but
not everybody
it's
does, but
honest, you're answering, so I
yeah,
appreciate
not everybody
that.
does, but I
Um,
appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
guess some of the questions are, and a few people have asked me, and I don't know the answers. Obviously, teachers have their own creative way of how to teach. That's part of it, personality, bringing things to the table, which is really important. But there are supplemental lists to the curriculum that is supposed to be appropriately vetted. I don't know how to say it, because anyone could say I vetted it, but who's vetting it, and I don't know the answers to that. I think overall across the board, wherever you're coming from, probably people just want to know how things are being somewhat vetted. I know a few people, mistakes are made. We're all human. Some teachers put on a video, they didn't watch the whole video. Halfway through the video, some information was passed on that was really incorrect and probably not appropriate for certain age groups. Things happen. An apology went out to that, a family
Sure.
too, but not overall. So, and these are the one, here and there's, right? It's not the overall, because I believe mostly positive, but like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so our processes are in place where we have our curriculum, right? And we have our resources and materials that teachers are supposed to reference and use when they teach a course. The process is in place for teachers writing lesson plans, right? It's a big part of how we vet, I use that word, right? On what the teachers are delivering in class. That reference the lesson plans reference the curriculum. Administrators are supposed to be assigned to review those. So you talk about processes in place.
Right.
Another thing I have to dive into, right? To make sure that's done consistently across the board. And then the department chairs of a humanities course or a science course need to make sure that those teachers are covering the material with the correct, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know. Let's just say the correct way, right? With all of the correct intent, right? That the curriculum was written and not leave certain things out because they feel like it or whatever it may be. If it's not that important, they don't feel like it, that's interesting, right? That's okay. right? But that's where the kind of the academic freedom comes in.
Mhm.
But as far as, and I'll talk about my daughter, who's a brand new first grade teacher, right? She's working her butt off on lesson plans, right? That come right from the curriculum, right to the lesson plans, right to her administrator, right? And that's the way the system should work. The downfall comes being an experienced administrator is when people have been teaching for 15 years and kind of bag that situation, right? And I'm not saying anybody does that here. I don't know that, and I'm not going to say it happens, right? But in my experience in past lives, there's been people who need to be addressed to say, well, you can't just copy from one year to the next, right? Or you can't just say you're going to do this and just do something else one day, right? So it's a lot of work for administrators, but something that we sign on for and we know we have to do. That's the process in place, you know.
I'm just gonna piggyback her, Holly, I'm Molly, BlackRock fifth grader. Are the teachers required to submit a syllabus of their, curriculum for that year, like science to list, like what they're gonna be doing throughout the years? I mean, just a way to track,
To parents,
no, to whoever's in charge of
right?
them,
So that's
what they're doing.
that's the curriculum.
I mean, yeah, that's what.
No,
I
that's
mean.
the curriculum that they receive. So they don't have to turn around and say, I'm gonna do all this. It's right here. So the
Okay.
lesson plans every week or every other week, that's the check and balance.
Okay,
So actually, what is that work?
Well,
Sorry. you
Okay,
finish.
so then is it possible that, I mean, there can be like, just to secure parents that they can do a syllabus so that, for instance, for social studies, parents know what they're learning throughout the year. For science, they know, because I'll tell you, I get like, sometimes I'll get like an email once a week
Sure.
and it, maybe, and it will say, oh, we did this. My kid's obviously not gonna know what I'm saying,
Say
so
it.
they learn,
Yeah, sure.
because they don't, she says who she sat with at lunch, but, I'd be curious to know what they're gonna be learning throughout the year, because I couldn't tell you, like, I don't know what they're doing in history. I don't know what they're doing in science.
I get it. I appreciate that. So in my past life, all of our curriculums were listed online. So pacing charts, everything.
Yeah, but
No, let me
that's-
finish, right? And that is, I'm not gonna have the teachers turn around the syllabus to parents. Like the curriculum was online, right? If a parent was interested in finding out what they were doing in this chapter and this week, they can go online to the curriculum and figure that, and not, you don't have to figure it out. It's right there, right? It doesn't happen here. And I
Yeah,
haven't,
'cause they don't go in order.
I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
So it's on the list.
Some teachers do, I have to say.
I'm sure.
High
I'm sure.
Yeah, when it gets to high school, I mean, I
Yeah.
get emails that say, this is what we're gonna be working, this is the year, this is, and in middle
But-
school, I've gone.
But therein lies another issue, right?
Inconsistent.
Right? So the inconsistency of maybe 3 of your teachers doing it, but the other 4 not. Right? And I'm not saying we're gonna change everything, and believe me, if teachers are watching this, you guys are doing a great job. But these things but things that you all have questions about that we need to straighten out the process. I'll go back to my very,
Will they do it as a team?
I'll go to my very first comment. The processes that are in place need to be kind of addressed to make sure they're happening all over the place. Right? So I think it's important, Holly, no, Molly.
Molly.
So I think it's important that those processes are there and that you all have access to something. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
I appreciate that.
Sorry.
Thank you.
There's a lot to do here.
You mentioned achievement gap earlier,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering if you could speak more to that, I think.
Yeah, sure.
How you
So,
plan on addressing.
so
it.
yeah,
I know, we're not the most diverse community, and for the small diversity we have, I know many who are sending their kids to private school because they don't feel like their kids are gonna get the appropriate education here, particularly Black
Yep.
families.
Yep.
And I think that's a major issue that needs to be addressed.
so I think the attitude is really important. And I'm not saying people have had a poor attitude about it in the past, but my attitude is even the one child, right? Even the one kid matters, right? So it's not, I'm not looking at let's just say, 40 minorities in 5th grade at one school or whatever it may be and say, oh, well, at least 30 of them are doing okay. That is not okay, right? They should all have the opportunity to do the same. So we have met over the summer with some groups of people who have that interest. And looking to partner in a couple of different ways. And I waited for the first month of the year to go by. So if people are watching this saying, well, he hasn't done anything yet, right? I wanted to get into October, so the first month of the school year got to be straightened out. I got a list of names of kids who worked all summer on homework programs, right? On supplemental programs. We will continue that work in school, right? Even for those 4, 5, 6 kids who care to go, right? Or whose parents want to make, want to make sure they continue to receive more work, or that work that, it would just give them that little push, right? A lot of it I talked about in attitude as well, right? In my past life, I keep going back to that because it's important, right? Because I don't want to assume that anybody in Lower Merion has done this, because it's not fair to them, right? When you're a teacher in front of a classroom and you look out in your classroom and you form opinions even though you don't think you do. Right? I think it's really important to have those conversations, even though they're very difficult. Right? Do I expect my kids of Asian descent to get A's because their parents expect it? Do I look at my, black boy and say, well, if you get a B, it's gonna be great? Right? That can't happen. Right? I think it's really important. I'm really being honest here. I didn't expect to get this deep with this conversation, but it's important that you know who I am. So we'll continue to do that. I think a third thing is, I've been to a couple of care meetings, right? And I left feeling it wasn't a great use of time. Right? What is the product that actually gets to kids from those meetings? Nothing. And hold on.
Yeah.
What's the product that actually gets to those kids, right? What work is done to where we could say we spent a good hour and a half, 2 hours once a month that is going to actually help kids? And the answer from my research after asking questions is not much in the past few years. And again, I'll go back to the flux in leadership and processes and things going on after COVID. So we're kind of partnering with community things, because I think it's really big that we have that community support to make sure that we have some kind of product that comes out of care. We're looking we didn't have a care meeting in September. We're not going to have one every month because I don't want to waste people's time. We are having our first care meeting. Aim, do you know that offhand?
October
29th, all right, that's right, before the strategic plan. Yeah, your whole day with me. Fantastic. But I think at the end of that meeting, we're gonna look to say, how can we impact kids right now? Instead of going around a table talking about, oh, this is going on, we did that. That's great. But again, I'll go back to what's the product that reaches the kids. For special ed, what's the product that reaches these kids that could actually help them? So a big part of who I am. So I hope
Who are the groups that you mentioned?
Excuse me.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah, so
Hello?
I met with a many groups of people. One of the group of people for the achievement gap, people who are concerned about the achievement gap is, I don't know, pastors in town, people who names that you would have known. I don't want to put them out here on blast without them saying it's okay. Names that you'd have known, a lot of people who go to the care meetings. I had them in the boardroom downstairs. We really talked about, well, what kind of difference can we make? And how? And I think everybody was in agreement, just like you're shaking your heads. Yes, it all sounds great, but we have to put the work in.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm online and I just really need to make a comment, if you don't mind, since we're at 10:30.
I mean, there were a large group of people who also were really actively involved for the AITF meetings, which was at one point kind of that group that was tasked with, not always successfully, but tasked with kind of creating those products and that's kind of just completely gone away.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming back either.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in
Yeah.
terms of like there were a lot of people, a lot of community members who devoted a lot of time. to
Yeah.
that.
So
I
I'm
think
gonna
getting
interrupt you one second. What does that stand for, Amy?
Achievement.
AITF.
The achievement imperative test.
Achievement imperative test. We have a group for everything here. It's great.
Yeah, there are a lot of acronyms.
It's fantastic. And I'm gonna get rid of all of it because it's really everybody's work, right? It's not just this committee that we formed because we have a problem. Anyway, sorry.
No, I mean, I appreciate that.
Everything.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm just, when we go back to like the trust and, all those pieces, I think that for people who had kind of devoted a lot of time and energy, having some sort of,
Yeah, so
because it's been,
when we have our care meeting, we'll address that.
okay.
All right. To where I feel we can't just have a committee for one issue that it's not a
I
small
don't
issue,
disagree.
but I think it's everybody's work and I think the most important thing you said there was supposed to get this product to kids mostly unsuccessful. What are we doing? What are we
I
doing?
agree, I
Right?
agree.
So.
Can I just make a comment, please? I'm here on Zoom and you all are minimizing us. Hello?
Somebody, we got somebody here. Hold on one second.
I'm sorry, so
Hold on.
we see you waving online, and we're just gonna say, we have to, our procedure is to ask the questions in the room first, and then we. Shoot, hold on a second.
Let her speak.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to hear you, hold on.
You're on mute. You have yourself on mute.
No, I was not on mute. You muted me. What I wanted to say, now that we are past 10:30, I'm not sure how long you're actually going to continue to stay, but as far as I'm concerned, the meeting is supposed to end. I want to lodge a complaint, one, to the ISC. It's a ridiculous policy for people who make an effort to be a part of this to push us to the end if there's time. We are putting in the effort to engage. I think it is actually, it gives me no faith in our ability to truly consider equity and inclusion and belonging if you're online, you get ignored in this meeting utterly and completely. So I need you to contemplate that, because already as a community, this has nothing to do with the administration. As a parent community, you are not acknowledging that I have comments and questions. Meanwhile, the people in the room are asking 3, 4, and follow-up questions. It's really unfair. It's really inappropriate. And what I can tell you with all certainty, that the 2 people who are in Zoom with their hands raised are both Black parents. The fact that we don't have the flexibility to be in that room should not prevent us from taking advantage of this forum to get our questions asked of the superintendent. So ISC, please reconsider how you structure these meetings, because they have put me on fire today. It's really inappropriate. Now I'm going to ask my question of the superintendent. One of the greatest problems I have had, I have one child who has graduated out of Harriton. I have one child who is in Harriton. It has always felt really combative between the administration, especially the child I have in school right now has an IEP. It has always felt really combative working with anyone at the administrator level. And when I mean at the district level, not necessarily at the school level. And that we've talked a lot about culture with staff and whatnot, but I would just like to be able to have a conversation with people where I didn't feel like they were teeing me up for the lawsuit. And so how do you plan to do that? And I hope it's not a 3 or 4 year exercise, because my daughter will hopefully be gone by then.
Jillian, is that your name, Jillian? I see it on the bottom.
Yes.
Can I ask you to email me with a number that I could call you? I'd like to hear some specifics that you've been through, and I'm sorry you've been through that. And we could talk that through, because I don't know how to answer you without having more specifics on how but I hear you, and I don't want the situation to be combative.
Okay, I will happily email you.
I appreciate that. I think that's really important. One of the things that I didn't say before, which is important to me, is the disproportionality in certain courses that we have, especially when we hit high school, even in middle school, right? Which is it's something that I've looked at always as an educator, and here is no different. So I don't know. I'd like to get more specifics on how you felt and when, before I can answer you specifically. So I'd like.
That's totally fair. So I appreciate that. So I will reach out.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, and then we'll go to
Children sleep on that.
same thing.
My child's biracial, and one, I'm a little confused about that, because when we go to the meetings, the biracials are in their own category. Even though it's so hard for them to find community, other biracials, and that's been traditional since my son was in kindergarten. It's been hard. My son's main group of friends in high school are children of color. And they were the ones who, he was sitting alone in the hallway, he didn't come to the lunchroom. And they said, come eat lunch at our table. But many of the children did that. So that's one thing I want to really compliment the school. We have wonderful setup. Kids inviting other kids to go eat lunch.
Number one, I'm glad to hear that. Number two, I'm sorry that he's been through that. That's not something that, as any educator, would want that.
We come from the Century Bucks district. So
I love the district. I absolutely love Harrington. Made a lot of difference for my son. And, right, and here's where the dialectics come in. And
Love the end.
anecdotally, I wish I could share what I know from my child having like a small group of children of color friendships and what's happened and how I clearly see even very small things that could point to that achievement gap. My son's small group of friends, almost every one of them wants to be a physician. And they all have it mapped out. One's gonna go to the military to be able to afford. One, leisure school as a senior at 1 o'clock and goes to work for Chick-fil-A every single day.
Right.
He's like doubles, triples up on his science courses. All these things. And some of these kids are really struggling, even at home in finances and, I see where kids could get lost because my son didn't pass the algebra keystone. And I was desperate to help him, and I'm able to pay for outside tutors, but I do worry for people who can't do that because when I asked for feedback of how he could have help passing that, what I ended up receiving was, well, here's these Khan Academy, right? And that was fine. So he took it again and he did not pass again. He took it again, they said maybe he should wait because he's got to also take bio, it might be a little too hard. But he wanted to, so I let him do it. He failed again. He was very close to passing. Yeah, he gets A's in his math and science courses. He has honors classes, he has the AP class this year as a sophomore. Which I wish they'd take more APs as a sophomore, that's another issue, but.
I'll push back and disagree, but okay, I respect your opinion.
So, but 2 times failed the algebra keystone. His one friend, the one that I mentioned, that goes to work at Chick-fil-A, that got well over a 1400 on his SAT, is already getting college scholarships. He failed his algebra keystone 3 times. This is a child of color. So what's going on? That's my question.
Yeah.
And I can see what's going on because it was sort of like, well, study these Khan Academy. I was like, okay. And then the second time I got the same feedback and I was like, oh, but if we keep doing the same thing.
Getting the same result. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, you say what's going on, I don't know, right? There's a situation where the best, I have 3 kids, all in their 20s right now. My youngest is a senior in college. But the best help, one was a great test taker, the other 2 not so much, right? The same type of thing, right? The best help they got was from inside the school, not outside. So one of the things we talked about over the summer and with these partnerships was how do we get some ground up work, right? So I appreciate that. I don't know what's going on, but I appreciate that experience that you had.
And talking about medical school too, there was supposedly a HOSA club last year. We had such a hard time even finding how to sign off for HOSA last year.
Is this an LM or a Harry?
What is
Oh,
HOSA?
My daughter does
Health Occupation Students of America.
Health Occupation Students of America.
I didn't know that existed.
So by the time, and I called multiple people on this. So by the time I finally found out, it was like the end of the year and I think they were no longer meeting and the kid that was, I guess, the president of the club said he would put my son on a mailing list. I don't think he ever got any mailings, and that was by the end of the year. Then I asked my son, well, what's going on with HOSA this year? He's like, I don't think they're having it anymore. So I wanted to find out if Harrington has a HOSA. So he joined a medical club.
Just gotta talk to the principal. I don't have that answer here. Really, I mean, those are questions for the principal. There's no doubt.
That add up when they.
There's no question about it,
They
but those specific things about HOSA and I mean, that would be more suited, answered by Mr. Warshauer.
Because I'm the type of person, I'll dig and I'll call 20 people or I'll do 20 different things. And my background is in social work and psychology, and I will do that. I just worry about people who can't, may not have the time, may not have the.
She's still there.
Is there anyone, I'm sorry, is there anyone online? We're unable to see all of everyone, but is there anyone else online that has a question?
Yes, I know there was somebody else on there.
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. This is Janice Lipsitz from Marion Station. Hello, Dr. Ranelli. Nice to meet you from afar. My question is about professional development. Over the years, in being very active in the volunteering community, I have been trying to get clarity on who owns professional development. And as we all know, at the end of the day, our teachers being equipped is most critical. And I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about that issue of who owns professional development and how we measure it.
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. I think it's really important to let people know. One of the things that, again, is this is no disrespect to what I walked into and to the great work that the people are doing, but a lot of the professional development things that happen throughout the year, and let's go back to last year when I wasn't here, weren't very well laid out in really enough advanced time. What I mean by that, if there was a district run professional development, so let's just say a full day or a half day, and there was a topic, many times the principal didn't know until a couple of weeks before what that topic was or what's going to be. And that is just that's not something we could sustain or would make the professional development worthwhile. So you say who owns the professional development? There are different sort of pockets of that. And we don't just use professional development time for the times that are set out as a now we don't have any more half days, but a half day professional development or a full day PD day.
Sure.
Faculty meetings, grade level meetings, like all of these are times for professional development. So we were able to, when I got here, we were able to put together sort of, I don't know if you could see this, but a chart of every day for the year of what that kind of looks like, what professional development is, what the topic's going to be, how it's going to be delivered. And I know you're going to ask, well, can we see that? So we're working on a way to put this online so you all can see it, right? And things on here, we have, let's just say on the 31st, right? We have, in the morning, we have curriculum priorities, and they're laid out in the back of this to say, well, ELA is going to do this, science is going to do this, math is going to do this. In the afternoon, we have the Dialogue Institute facilitated by people we train, right? And then we have Policy 236 training. So those types of things are really important. And then we go into, this is just the 31st. And then each building will go into the MTSS training, the multi-tiered system of support training in the afternoon. So I don't know that in the past few years, we've had documents like this that really drive professional development throughout the year. The reason this is important is because if a principal feels they need in a building more work on 236, they'll infuse that in their faculty meeting. They'll infuse that in their time when they need to infuse it, that we don't drive, right? Their building times. So like I said, this is a really important document for us. And I brought it not knowing there was going to be a PD question, but I know how important it is to you all that what the teachers are learning and sort of how they're implementing it in class. So I hope that answers your question. And the question on can we see that, I'm working on putting it somewhere where it makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think it's fantastic to see it documented, so would love to see it. And then I guess just the follow-up question, you don't have to answer it now, but I'll just put it out there about reinforcement, because like, for example, there's questions about bias, teacher bias, right, in the classroom, and that relates to professional development. So like how do we then measure the impact of the PD and whether, for example, teachers are following what they've learned about bias or whatever, whether it's about MTSS or whatever issue they're learning, how do we know that it's being reinforced and followed through in the classroom? Thank you.
I appreciate that overarching question, and I'll reserve the answer. Like you said, I don't have to answer it now. I think it's, especially me being here my first full year, that's a really, really important observation that I have to make along with the principals and sort of training them to say, has this worked, or do I need to deliver it to this group of people a different way? Yeah, there's a lot of things to do, but I think we have really good people here to be able to do it.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, if there's time. Can you hear me? Hi, my name is John Bellis. Thank you for taking the time here. So my question is a general question. You know, how do you feel about the rising use of technology in the classroom? And then a more specific question. I'm one of the people in the district that has been trying to grow the awareness about this delay the smartphone, delay social media pledge. And it's gained a lot of traction over the last year. I spoke in front of the school board a few times last year. And the general consensus seemed to be that everyone thought it was a good idea, but that the school board could not endorse anything that is, you know, outside the realm of the school, which I totally understand. And so we got into this situation where, you know, the school board can't endorse it, but they were willing to sort of green light it, if you will. And so in the March 17th school board meeting, Dr. Saltner and your predecessor, Dr. Mazzolini, you know, pulled us aside and spoke to a couple of us after the meeting, and they said that our stance is basically that any school employee who wants to spread the message of wait until 8th is perfectly allowed to. No one's going to get in trouble. And if, you know, somebody's worried about that, like a teacher or a principal, tell them to call us and we'll explain our position. So we still seem to, you know, we're making a lot of traction. A lot of the HSAs are helping us spread the message, those that believe in it. And it's not a judgmental message. You know, everybody has a different view on this topic. But my question for you is, do you continue what President Salter and your predecessor's position that no one in the district will get in trouble, so to speak, if they choose to help spread the message about wait until 8th for smartphone and social media?
You talk about trouble. That's I don't agree, right? I don't agree that we can go around saying what we want. There's no way people could disassociate a school employee from being a school employee and representing the school district by saying something. So this is a situation that I know you've heard before. So I'll answer it in public if that's what the question is. There is no way that the school district, any school district, could recommend or put together a stance on how parents should raise their kids. So we'll leave it at that, right? So we're not going to endorse the wait until 8th. We have our policies. I'll answer your first question. I hope this doesn't come out.
No, you're good.
I'll answer your first question when I'm done with the wait until 8th thing. I was at a meeting with superintendents across the state last week, and it was not common, but other superintendents have wait until 8th. So I understand it's gaining traction. As a parent, I might not disagree, but that really doesn't matter, right? As a school district, I can't endorse take a stance on how parents should raise their kids. I understand that you know already, since your 501(c)(3) status is there, we could put it on our website, your events, right? Not a stance, but your events, just like we do the Scouts and the HSEs and things like that. Your partnerships with the HSEs, it's their decision whether to put that out or not. A stance or and I know they've chosen to say yes, where we will put out your events and things like that. But it kind of lies there. I think one of your main questions was, well, is a teacher going to get in trouble? I don't know what trouble means, John. But I really want to make sure that people understand that if I go to a meeting and say I'm here as a parent, nobody's going to disassociate me from a parent to my job as a superintendent of schools here. So they just can't be the spokespeople for the district. And if they go out in public and say, we support this, I think there's got to be some caveat to say, look, there's no way the district supports this because they can't, but I support it as a person. So I hope I didn't muddy that answer, but it's kind of putting some.
I understand what you're saying. And just to be clear, I'm not affiliated with the organization at all. I'm just a parent that thinks it's a good idea. Yeah. So I totally understand you guys cannot endorse anything. To be clear, what you just said, though, is the HSAs are allowed to help us spread the message. And the message is simply some parents are signing this pledge. You may want to take a look. It's not really taking a stance.
As a human, right? And educator who looks at screen time all the time, right? I hear you, and I'll answer your first question when we're done here. I get it. Right, as a dad of 3 kids and going through that technology age, especially during COVID, I mean, they were glued to these things, and it drove it, right? But you know, the HSAs are kind of outside our district; they're part schools, and they've taken a stance, I understand, right? And they put things on their websites and their newsletters that either support or just announce things like that.
Okay, got it.
We tend to walk the line of what we can do. Because we
Understood.
humans, right? That kids shouldn't be tied to these things. And to answer your first question, the growing use of technology in school. We talk about screen time all the time. And we talk about it specifically in the elementary schools now. And then I shouldn't say that. We talk about it at all levels. But the elementary schools, we want to make sure there's that balance where if they don't need a device, they're not using it. Where if they could use a book or talk to somebody or use a group of people, they're doing that. The district has chosen one-to-one devices to deliver their curriculum. I'll leave it at that, right? So there's right. We can't opt out and say I don't want a computer. I need textbooks, right? The district has chosen to do that. So we have to balance and use the screen time to where it's beneficial to kids, but not overwhelming and doesn't tie them to that. We hope that parents do that when they get home as well. My philosophy on homework, which I haven't gotten to in Lower Merion yet, because there's just so much to do, is I'll say this out loud, and I hope teachers or parents don't tie me to this, right? Seriously, right? It should be about 10 minutes per grade, right? Up until 6th grade, right? And then high school, maybe a little bit different, whatever. So first graders should come home with 10 minutes of homework.
Used to be.
Right? So that's my philosophy as an educator. And we'll get there the longer I'm here once I put these processes back in place. Right? So we're not going to exacerbate the screen time at home by making them do too much homework on the screen. Right? And that's, again, you say, well, that's got to stop now. Things just can't change immediately. So I see you shaking your head. I hope you agree with me, but that's my take on screen time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, John, take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, my name is Janice Ferguson. I'm from Belmont Hills Elementary School.
Hi, Janice.
My son is in 2nd grade and I'm the current HSA president.
Great.
So I have a follow-up question, pushback question. So to follow up with the question about the academic gap with minorities, and you said that that you didn't know what the plan was. You don't have a plan.
Okay.
So we have a historical issue with the school district. And I just wanted to know, since there isn't a current plan, when can we expect to have one?
Yeah, I'll say I don't know. And I know that's not going to make you happy. No, and you can shake your head, Janice, and hear me out. Well, hear me out, right? If I were to come in here and say, we're going to do this way now, right? It just wouldn't work. It's not fair, right? For me to be able to collect the correct information, all right, and I'm continuing to do that, to work with the right partners in school and the community, and we're continuing to do that, right? So, and to make that plan, what would a plan in your eyes look like?
I think that it's like basically all of our responsibility.
I agree.
To come up with something.
Yeah, right. I agree. I don't think I have to say that out loud for people to understand that. I'm trying to work with as many people as I can to be able to say, look, it's everybody's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility to understand that if a kid is on the verge of taking an AP class, I know you have a 2nd grader, so you're not there yet, right? Or an honors class, they should be able to be stretched to do that, right? How can we support that student during the school year, during the school day, lunch and learn at the high schools, right? Different times at the elementaries and middle schools. How can we support that student to get over that top? But these are things that we need to put in the system, that it can't just be, well, Ranelli told them they gotta do that. Because we're not building tables, right? Our products are kids. We have to make sure that people really understand what the issue is and the right way to fix it. And the right way to fix it here might be very different than the right way to fix it wherever I came from, or Philadelphia, or Central Bucks, or whatever it may be, right? So I don't say I don't know because I'm not working on it, and I don't know. Like, I know the formulas in my head. If I say them out loud, people all hold me to it.
So if you don't know when the plan's gonna come, can you talk about what process you're going through?
Yeah, well, I think I laid it out already, right? We're continuing to meet with the principals. We're continuing to meet with the people out in the community. We're continuing. So I'll give you an example of part of the process. There was a group, and I have one more question after this, because I have a meeting at 11:30, so I have to go get ready for that. There was a group that delivered instruction to students, about 30 students over the summer, not affiliated with the school district. I have those 30 names, and that's why I said I'm waiting until the end of September. We will sort of back end that information by offering them more support during the school year as well. So you say, what's the plan and what are you doing? When are you doing it? We're always doing it. Right? So, but to lay out something and say, we're going to do this, and this, that's not fair to me to say, well, after 5 months and a summertime, right? How can we do this? And what are you going to put in place to make sure we're successful? Right? One kid at a time is important to me. So if there's a situation where we can help one kid, that's a success.
What you just laid out, that step you just laid out of what you plan on doing to follow up with those 30
Yeah.
kids.
Mhm.
That is a step in the plan, whether it's a formal plan or not, but I think that's what, at least I'm asking for, she's asking for,
So-
we're asking for, it's like, what are
There
the
you go.
steps that you're
So I
doing
did it.
to address it?
Well, and I know there's so much work to be done. And if somebody had the answer, I wouldn't have papers from 25 years ago on my desk, literally on my desk. And I'm not saying that we don't, we can't do the work, because it's interesting to me how we have it. So we will do things that are different here. And I don't know what they are. I can't lay them out right here, because it's not just Frank saying we're doing it this way, right? We have to partner with people and make sure that we're doing it with the validity that it needs to be done with.
Is there someone in the district that's responsible for like monitoring this or
Me.
other, I mean,
Nope,
like,
nope.
is there a team that's just?
Well, me and my administrators, yeah.
I mean.
Like, is there somebody that, like, if they have questions for you to send to instead of you,
Nope.
that are vetting? No, so they should just email you?
Yep.
Specifically about the
Teaching.
minority
Mhm.
care.
Specifically about the achievement gap, me.
Is
Okay.
the DI director part of that?
So that job description has changed. That
Oh.
job description now is a director, was in the last board meeting, the director of equity and compliance. And we deal with equity for a lot of different areas, right? But I think it's important that we kind of understand the role of that position to be more equity driven for all
So
students.
what is it called now?
The director of equity and compliance. It was in the board minutes last week, last month.
Director of.
Equity and compliance.
Is there somebody online?
So
Yeah,
there
so-
is one last question online, and then it sounds like you guys can email any questions.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jill Alschuler.
Hi, this is Jill Altruller. Thank you. I'll try to make my question really quick, and that is, I'm not sure how much awareness you have of some of the various studies that have been spent a lot of time, a lot of money. The equity study is one of them, and the belonging survey, less so in terms of time and money, but just wondering if you've seen, how much you know about that, if you've seen the results, and if you know if the results have been put into action in any way, especially considering the amount of time and money that was spent on the equity study.
Yeah, Amy, did I know about that? I don't know that I've seen that. I'll be honest with you, Jill.
Whew.
And whether you like it or not, I'm going to be honest, right?
Oh
I know-
no, but I was kind of expecting you to say that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad
It was a biggie. It was a huge endeavor.
And I think, well, we've discussed the issues with like the belonging, so.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so yes and no, right? To where we've had those discussions about belonging, we've had those discussions about what is next for the district and how we're going to get there, but as in-depth as you would have hoped, or maybe you asked that question.
No, I mean, I would, if you, whenever you have a chance to kind of ask around about this equity study done by Northwest out of Portland or something like that. It was a couple years long, big endeavor.
I appreciate that, Jill. Thank you.
Yeah.
We are going to need to wrap it up right now because we're already past 11 and we promised to get Dr. Ranelli out of here on time. Thank you for all your questions,
you.
both in the room and online, and we'll certainly spend some time talking about how we can make sure we are fair and addressing all the questions and comments online. So thank you for that point. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you all at our next events. Thank you.